And the first person that we will hear from is Mr. Dennis Stremski. He is the director of the city's Office of Homeland Security. And so I'd like to ask, commonly referred to as Chief Stremski, to please come up and say a few words.
Thank you, council members. One of the things that we're doing with some of our grant Homeland Security monies is citizen preparedness, community preparedness. And so that's why we're here today, to make sure that the public understands the risk and makes preparations to take care of themselves in the event of an emergency, particularly in the event of a hurricane in this case, because we can't depend necessarily on government to take care of everybody. We need people who are able to help their neighbors We're actively recruiting people for our community emergency response teams, our CERT teams, so that they can go out and help their neighbors to deal with emergencies when first responders can't be there. We've printed materials like what you have in your hand to give people an idea of what they need to do. I think the thing we want you to walk away with today is to know, first of all, every family should have an emergency plan. Know what you're going to do before the event happens, whatever the emergency. Secondly, to have an emergency kit with extra water, extra food, extra medication, the things that you might need. We have helpful tips for you in the brochures that we publish. Plus, people can go online to the city's website, which is www.houstontx.gov, and click on emergency management, and all this information is there to help you be prepared to deal with an emergency.
Great, thank you. You feel free to give him an applause, of course, of course. This man works hard to keep you safe. The next person I'd like to invite to share a few words is Mr. Tim Kidwell with the Red Cross. And as you know, when unfortunate things happen, one of the people that we're always excited to see and always excited to have is the American Red Cross. And so I'd like to ask Mr. Tim Kidwell to say a few words.
Thank you. Yes. What has already been said today is pretty much the Red Cross's preparedness is have a plan, build you a kit, and in building that kit, making sure that if you have any kind of personal items that you really need, like prescription medication, it could be important in that kit, or your eyeglasses, have those available also in your kit. And then be informed. And presentations like this today, and the Red Cross can come back and do presentations. That is all goes to being informed. Trained if you can, taking classes, and being informed.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And now the next person that will come up and say a few words is Ms. Sharon Knowles. She is the Director of the Office of Emergency Management. And I want her to spend a couple of minutes talking about this map and the issues as they relate to zip codes and zones and special instructions that we will hear from our mayor and our county judge. Ms. Knowles, good to see you.
Thanks. Good afternoon. One of the things that we learned from Katrina and Rita, and we learned a lot of lessons, but one of them was that the maps that existed were difficult for people to understand. Were they in a storm surge area or were they not? So what we've basically done is taken the maps and we've created a zip zone or a zip overlay. Everybody knows their zip code. You know your zip code for where you reside at, and everyone else does. So now we can take this and put it on the map, and we can say, as a staggered or a staged evacuation, those who are at greatest risk can go first, the ones who are closest to the coastline down in Galveston, and we can specifically give those zip codes so that people know when it's their turn to go. And then when they've gone, the next group can go after them. We've done something similar with a wind product that we're piloting for this area, that if you live outside of these zip codes that are in the evacuation zones, but you want to know what the potential wind speed might be for an approaching hurricane, you can go to a website called www.houstonhidefromthewind.org, and you can click on your zip and see what the wind might be. So the whole goal here is basically to say, if you're in a storm surge area, we want you to run from the water, and if you're in outside of that area, we want you to hide from the wind.
and now we have Mr. David Job with 211. It is a very, very important number that we want you to know, not just for this, but for other special services. And 211 is a part of the United Way. Is that correct, Mr. Job? If you come up and share a few words. And really, this is, this is in part really the most specific reason why we're here this afternoon, is that we want to encourage folks that are not in facilities like the Heights House to follow Mr. Job's instructions. Mr. Job.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. One of the lessons that we learned after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita was that people needed a way to evacuate, and that they wanted to know that someone knew they were there. The emergency planners need to know where are the people that need evacuation. And so in collaboration with the Governor's Division of Emergency Management, Harris County Office of Emergency Management, and the city's emergency management, we designated 211 as the number that you would call if you have some kind of special need and wouldn't have transportation, or the other special need that we are identifying is, say you don't have a car, or some of the calls that we've gotten are people that say, you know, I'm 90 years old, I have a car, but I don't want to be stuck out on the road during a hurricane. I don't know if my windshield wipers work very well because I never drive in the rain. And those are the people that we want to dial 211. And what will happen when people call 211 is that we have trained call specialists that are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have people that speak several different languages, and they can ask a few questions about your address and an emergency contact, and also, do you have a pet? Do you use oxygen? What kind of, are you using a walker? Do you need electricity for an electric wheelchair? Those kinds of things. And they categorize those from a level 0 to 5. And that information goes into a very secured database that is in Austin, and it's kept by the state and then sent out to the local municipalities like Harris County and the city of Houston, so that they are aware of how many people in that area actually would need transportation during an evacuation of a hurricane. So it's really a pretty simple process. One of the things that people always ask me is, can I register someone else? And yes, if you know of somebody that needs evacuation transportation, you can register another person, but we would ask that you let them know that you're doing that before you register them.
One of the questions they ask the office a lot is, if they registered last year, do they have to register again?
And actually, no. If you registered last year, that information is still in the database. But what we do ask is, if your address changes, or your telephone number changes, or your emergency contact information would change, that you call us back and let us know that, and we'll make that change for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. So this is a test. How many of you know someone that lives in a house? How many of you? What will you do? Will you call and say what? Will you ask them what? Do they have an emergency family plan? You passed the test. You've all made 100.